Hello everyone and welcome to Dive Bomb F1 Season 6. It's the third week of the season, rounds 5 and 6 for Saudi Arabia, and later on in the night we will head over to Mexico. It's currently the championship leader Jenga Boy leading the way on 80 points. He is currently on provisional pole as the man out in third place. Daniel Pilianak goes a bit wide on his out lap. He's just warming up those tyres, making sure they're ready to go for his lap. Will quickly run through some of the championship order as the two risk race drivers have now retired from the session. Jake and Jordan will start from the back of the field and they will score double points in their races. Daniel comes around the final corner to start his lap. We're watching him at the moment. But as Jenga Boy leads the way in the championship, 80 points from 4 races. A good start for the Sauber driver. And Sheck Weiss, the defending champion, he's in second place, 15 adrift with the reserve of ERT Casper down in 54 points. No longer VRT actually, sorry, it's ERT Jordan in fourth on 51 points with Hugo on 43. Lewis Craig in sixth place on 41 with the first Ferrari of Gio Mac on 37. CJH in 8th and 36. Acorn in ninth on 34. Jess Games rounds out the top 10 on 31 points. She was obviously on holiday last week, so she'll be looking for a bit of a closer battle to the guys at the top when she scores more points. And you'd imagine she'd be able to do so on provisionally the front row. The grid is Cyber and the constructors 123 points, 123, a very quick start for them in the first 4 races, with Haas on 65 behind. Ferrari also on 65. They've had a good start to the season as a team. Personally, they've both not been great. Good pace, but it's not translated into results. But third and fourth, looking good in the qualifying sessions for them. Can they translate it to the races? We'll have to wait and see. Williams on 54. Tony is back though tonight, and it's his first time since DBF1 Season 5 ended, so we'll let him introduce himself back into racing and we'll give him a bit of leeway tonight. Racing Bulls on 53 points and Red Bull on 50. Obviously Jess didn't race last week, which is why they're so low. Aston Martin on 45, Alpine on 41, only Lewis Craig driving so far this season. Mercedes on 27 and McLaren. They've had a decent result here and there, McLaren, as Daniel didn't improve there on 20, but only 25 points from McLaren. They'll be pretty disappointed overall, but they've shown glimpses of their true natural pace. Chris Johnson, I believe, is on a lap. The Racing Bulls driver picked up a podium, of course, here last season. He finished third place, just behind his teammate, myself, in second, as Weiss won his only Grand Prix last season here. Can he get his second race win of the season? Obviously picked up a win up in Kota as we're on board with the Racing Bull driver now, getting a bit of a tow, maybe some dirty air off the Aston Martin ahead that isn't having to get out of the way as he is on a lap, but Chris won't be too happy with that one. Maybe a bit of a tow in the beginning, but it turned into dirty, turbulent air that cost him a bit of time, Chris. And yeah, he's 2.5 tenths down, so I don't see Chris improving on P6 this lap, but we'll stay on him just to make sure that he doesn't have a fantastic final sector. Obviously picked up a podium here last time, so he has got the pace to have some good results tonight. Car 93, not had the best pace. He's been pretty disappointed in himself over the first few weeks of the season. He says he's not here to finish 10th. He's here for podium and wins if he can get it. Yeah, didn't improve, but he had a good final sector. So with that car out the way, he'd be probably pretty happy. Tony's up into 7th. He's improved by 1.5 seconds, so a good lap there from Tony. Is anyone else on a lap? I think Deck's just starting one. But watch Scottish Goat, the Ferrari. He got the promotion from Alpine to Ferrari this season as he's gone very wide. We'll see what his split time is there on board with the Ferrari. Yep, he's down. So it's now Deck's turn to have the pressure put on him. Obviously one half of the former TGP2 Constructors Champions. They weren't able to defend their crown in DBF1. Jordan and Tony stuck that away from them. And Deck will be looking to try and reclaim that. They're down the order in the Constructors, but there's plenty more racing to go for those two guys, Ryan and Deck, to see if the two former friends turned kind of rivals, enemies now, if they can get themselves up into that Championship Constructors fight. Deck's on a good banker lap time, a 29.7, top 5, 2 championship points before we get racing. He's already had his risk race, of course, Deck, so he doesn't need to start from the back of the field. He's just pure do his best as you possibly can. He's gone very deep there after a purple sector 2. We'll stick with him as it's not telling us he's invalidated the track. Very lenient around that corner as you see the Williams moving out the way nicely, unlike the car ahead of Chris Johnson on his lap. We're on board now for the final stretch of Acorn's lap. On the run up to the line now. How quick is it going to be after going deep at that corner in the second sector? It's P4, a 4.5 tenth improvement, and that is on the second row of the grid for the Aston Martin driver, and he'll be very happy with that. Tony's coming into the pits. CJH on an out lap. Is Jenga Boy further round though? Yes, he is. I think CJ has just begun his out lap, and Jenga Boy on provisional pole now. Just over 2.5 times. Oh, and he's clipped the wall there. Just over 2.5 times, I was saying, ahead of his closest rival, Jess, on the front row. The grid. Jess been very impressive in qualifying compared to Jenga Boy, and she's actually disconnected from the session there, so we're going to try and invite her back once Jenga Boy set a lap, and it's so close, not much time left in the session. Is her teammate in the pits? Yeah, Baza in the pits, so hopefully Baza can give her a quick invite back. If not, we can do that with 3.5 minutes to go in the session. Jenga Boy is pushing now, trying his absolute best to beat that 28.3, which is an incredibly hard time to beat, but clipping the wall again there is Jenga Boy, struggling to improve on that lap time. Maybe that is the best lap time we're going to see from the championship leader after 4 rounds. We'll see his split 2 time. He is still improving, even after clipping the wall. That is an incredible lap if he can do this, especially after that turn 2 wall incident. He's coming round now, the swooping left-hander by Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen had their contact back in 2021. Acorn moves out of the way on his in-lap, and now you'd imagine it should be a dart to the line, and it should be an improvement, and maybe into the 27s for the championship leader, and it's not quite a 27, but it is an improvement on lap time, and he's up in provisional pole 28-1, and I don't believe Jenga's going to have enough time to go again. So if that is his lap time, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Catch me if you can, you'll be saying. And now it's CJH who's going to be the first man or woman to try and make that attempt at closing the gap. Lewis Craig in 12th ahead of Wace. He's got a qualifying ban, so he's going to start no better than 12th place at the moment. And Darky not setting a lap time yet, so if he is coming out now, Jake and Jordan should be 16th and 15th come at the end of the session for their bonus points race. But it's currently all about CJH. Car number 11 got the pace to win races, as he's proven last season. Not quite had the pace early on this season. He's not done as much practice and racing as he would like. And down he goes now, opens up the DRS for one final time, and it's only P4 for CJ. And I think in the grand scheme of things, he'd be pretty happy with that. Daniel P. Wheelnut. Is he on a lap, or is he starting a lap? I think he's on a lap, starting it now. Bit of battery down. He's looking like a pretty competitive lap through the opening few sectors, and we'll stick on with him as Lewis letting his team know he's got a collie ban over the team radio. Not too happy with it, but these things happen. He shouldn't have kept his mouth shut in the group chat, and he wouldn't have got one. But Daniel now swimming away. He's in, just not improving enough. It's 1/10 over his current best time for a P3. He needs 4/10 and needs to find 5 if he's going to knock Jess off that spot. And Jess isn't going to set another lap. She's going to be P2 at best at the moment. So Daniel now coming round the final few corners. The Red Bull, I believe, if Baz is moving out of his way, he might get a nice wee slipstream to the line. And no, Daniel's coming in. He's calling it a day, not improving enough, and that is his qualifying over. What about his teammate? There is obviously cars ahead on laps, but we'll see. I think the McLaren of Gamer James, obviously he's on an out lap. Chris Johnson, I think that was. He's pulled over to the side, not improving. J. O'Mackey's going to run out of ERS fairly early in the lap of the third sector. The Scottish goat. Round that final corner now, can he somehow put himself higher than 6th on the grid with only Acorn left to run? It doesn't look like he's got the space, the pace. No, he doesn't. No improvement again, so it's his banker lap is his quickest. Chris Johnson, though, improving through Sector 1 as Ryan Berry retires. He'll be no higher than 8th, so we'll stick with Chris. He's improving. Oh, and you see there, actually, Ryan's in the wall there. That's why he's not improving. And Chris Johnson now. Had the podium here last season, as we've mentioned. P7, he's 2.5 times up. And Chris is looking on for a good lap here. And it may only be the third row of the grid if he can get it done. But in the third row of the grid for Chris will be extremely warranted and valued for that team. He's struggled this season early on, and it looks like Acorn's called it a day. He's not going to improve. Wace is retired from the session in 13th place. Darky's the only man left as Chris does improve, but not enough to move him up any spots. Gamer James isn't improving. Baza's not improving. Tony is. Is Darky improving? We'll watch Darky. He is the driver currently that you'd imagine would be able to challenge the front row of the grid if he's close enough, and he is the front row of the grid, but it's only 28.3, and for the man that didn't think he'd get close to Jenga Boy, he's extremely close and has a great chance of picking up a race victory here. And I think it's only Tony left now improving on his lap. But that is a fantastic lap for Darky. He just can't get that 10th pole position. He'd be the only driver in the double digits of poles if he can do it, and it's not quite going his way. Jenga Boy moves up into 3 poles for the season. 2 poles for the season. And Tony can only manage a 30.2, which means he's going to be 10th on his return to the league, which is a pretty good lap. Wace will be disappointed that he's behind Lewis, even with Lewis having a lap. And congratulations to Jenga Boy picking up another 6 points in the championship. Darky picks up 5 points. Jess, who only got the 1 lap in, will pick up 4. Daniel Pibuena picks up 3. CJH picks up 2. And Acorn picks up 1 championship point as we're just waiting for the McLaren to come into the pit lane and get the tyre blankets on. And I really hope Darky isn't using chase cam, because if he is and he's getting that quick a lap time, that's disgusting. Gioviamani 2.0. Obviously, Gioviamani, the DB Gran Turismo champion from the summer. But it's Jenga Boy on pole position, followed by Darky on the front row. Jess and Daniel occupy the second row of the grid, with CJH and Acorn making it 5th and 6th. Scottish Goat and Chris Johnson 7th and 8th, with Ryan Berry 9th. Tony rounded out the top 10. Baza on the medium tyres in 11th, with Gamer James rounding out the people that set a lap time. Lewis Craig had a quali ban in 13th. Wace, I don't know why he didn't set a lap, but 14th place. With Jordan and Jake 15th, they didn't set lap times there in their risk race. They will score double points tonight in the first race. Well, we're about to get underway in a few moments. The drivers will get their final strategies and fuel loads in order and their final preparations, wipe the hands of any sweat from the quali session, calm the heart rate down just a wee bit before the nerves of a race start get going. And it's been a fantastic 4 races. Obviously, Casper picked up a win in his debut last week at Silverstone. Jenga Boy also picked up his first win of the season last week. Hugo picked up a win, but he's not been here the last 2 weeks, unfortunately, in the opening night. Wace, who only won 1 season in his championship winning season, won the opening round, staking his claim at his title defence, but it seems to be falling away from him after the opening round. He's second in the championship, 15 points behind. That moves to 21 after qualifying, and after winning here last season, Wace will be disappointed with that. And it just shows you the pressure of Dive Bomb F1 and how hard it is to maintain that superiority at the top. There is a reason we've had 5 seasons and 5 different champions. It is very hard to defend a crown when so many great talented drivers are vying for it. And then we're about to get underway soon. You'd imagine that timer's going to come up in the top any moment now, and one of the drivers get ready to go. Obviously there is the wee timer just before we get racing. And Jess has rejoined, so hopefully she's in the cockpit and she can race with us in Saudi Arabia. P3 on the grid. You'd be Red Bull will be fairly disappointed if she can't get in. It would be a pretty big nightmare for her, especially after picking up 3 points, not racing in week 2, obviously on holiday, and then not making the first race of the night due to connection issues. I think it's Steam issues. I don't even think it's connection issues. I think Steam just keeps restarting the game or restarting our PC. Fairly annoying for Jessica Ball, but we'll have to wait and see in the coming moments if she is able to. She might not be able to do the start, and then be able to take over in the race at a suitable time where it's obviously safe to do so. And we're on the grid for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It's Jenga Boy versus Darky off the line. And away we go under the lights in Jeddah, and we'll see. It's a great start for Daniel. Can he manage to mount a challenge? Not quite. Jenga Boy leads from Darky, from Jess, who's trying to fight him for P2 on the soft tyres. It looks like CJ's gotten away okay as well. Can he get past Jess? It looks like he's going to be able to challenge. Hopefully it's not around the outside, and Jess peels out of that one, which was the right thing to do. CJ happened to be free now on the podium. Daniel P. Whelan had a good start, not able to jump up in position. Acorn in 6th with Scottish Goat 7th, Chris Johnson 8th, Lewis Craig's already up into 9th and is looking to make that P8, and he is. What a start for the Alpine, the Flying Scotsman, showing why he's got 5 race victories in Dive Bomb F1, with Chris having to settle for 9th, and it looks like Ryan Berry has gotten past Tony early on in the session. And James down into 14th place. We'll try to get the tyres up. It looks like Jake is battling Jordan early on here. The double point scorers trying to do their best, and it looks like the McLarens have sorted themselves out, with James trying to defend from his teammate. But his teammate's doing everything he can to challenge. Ryan Berry now on Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson down into 10th. Not the start he would have liked, but the start that someone would have liked was the Alpine. He's already all over the back of 7th place as Lewis, trying to show the Cyber Boys and Darky that he's got the pace to win these races. But actually, Scottish Scott's going to go down the inside of Acorn. The only way to turn defence into attack there, and Lewis Craig's gotten past Acorn now, as he was left hung out to dry, and he might get past the Ferrari here. Scottish Goat going to try to defend the position, but he's just got nothing to defend with Lewis Craig. What a move up the inside now. He started P13. P13. He's already up into 6th place. What a start to the Grand Prix. He's up 7 places off the start. And we'll keep an eye on him as the time goes on. And we've got the tyres up on the screen now. Softs for Jenga Boys, 1.1 ahead of Darky. And the soft tyres compared to the mediums might be why. CJ on the mediums up as well. Jess is up there as well on the soft tyres, using the tyres to her advantage if she can. And it looks like Daniel is going to be in trouble from Lewis Craig in the coming moments. Daniel on the mediums, Lewis Craig on the softs. Obviously this race last season was 35%, so it was a bit longer. It was more of a soft, hard, medium hard race. And it's obviously changed to the 25% race this season. And Lewis using the soft compounded tyre from the beginning for that reason. Obviously there is the potential for safety cars, as Acorn's been passed by Ryan Berry, his teammate. Acorn dropping down the field here. Not a great start for Acorn. He'll be hoping to improve on that in the second half of this race. But we're watching Jess Games now. She's right on the back of CJ. She's gotten in her groove. Lewis Craig in the background of your picture there as well. And it looks like Jake has passed his teammate Jordan down the field as well. You thought he would have moved up a bit quicker, as Jenga Boy sets a 31 flat, leads the way now. Here comes Lewis Craig on Daniel Peelby in at softs versus the mediums, and Lewis Craig's pace, you should imagine, should get past, and Darky picks up a penalty which will affect him later on in the race, and Lewis Craig now beautifully gets past Daniel P. Wheelnut, and that is 8 places gained, and Lewis Craig now on board with the Alpine within a second of Jess, and he's got some pace, and he's trying to prove that that qualifying ban isn't going to matter here tonight, and that he would have had a chance of winning if he didn't have it, and he still probably does here. If he can get past Jess and then past CJ, Darky with a penalty. Jenga Boy is a bit up the road, but Lewis Craig got the pace in him. We know from Dive Bomb F1 and TGP2 experience that he is an extremely quick driver around Saudi Arabia in TGP2. He was so far ahead no one could catch him, and it has got one of his tracks which suits his natural ability. And talking about natural ability, Scottish Goat now trying to use his natural ability to get past his teammate in the Ferrari. The two Ferraris, good in qualifying, good pace in the races, but it's just not translated into results, unfortunately, for them. And it shows in the championship standings, and they're doing their best, but they just seem to make silly mistakes on their own that cost them in the long run. And Lewis is on the back, but so is Jess, and Acorn's close, but Waste now is up ahead of Acorn, who's gotten back past his teammate Ryan Berry. So Waste now into 8th place, the race winner of Saudi Arabia last season. Can he get up the order and mount a challenge now? Lewis Craig not quite close enough to Jess. Scottish Goat neither. And Ryan Berry, sorry, might be close enough to make a move in his teammate, just letting his teammate know he's still there. Baza trying to defend from one of the Williams. It's Jordan behind, Tony ahead, and then Jordan and Jake in their double points race, not making up the places they would have liked early on in the night. And Jess now on those softs really needs to get past them. CJ Lewis is mounting a real challenge now to her, and both of Lewis and Jess on those softs need to make use of those tyres, and we're told from some Alpine kind of inside information as Lewis bangs the wall there, putting everything on the track. Obviously if he wants to win the championship he needs to win it on the odd weeks of the season, so it's a big ask for him as he drops a few tenths back now. And they need to use the tyres when they have them. And Scottish Goat now 2 tenths adrift, just crept up to 3 tenths, should have DRS. But he's struggling through that second sector on this lap. Someone who isn't struggling on this second sector is Lewis Craig. We're on board with the Alpine driver. Well, we'll see if Jess goes defensive. She doesn't, but she has the better line. We'll see about traction though, as Lewis Craig on the throttle as early as he possibly can. It's a bit squirrely up front as the Williams swap places, but it's going to be enough this time. Lewis Craig sails past the lead at Red Bull in this Grand Prix. Will Jess try and fight it? No. Lewis Craig up into P4 and up 9 places in this Grand Prix as we have some pit stops now early on in the race. And Darky picks up another time penalty as he starts to gain on Jenga Boy, but you'd imagine that'll be because of the tyre wear that Jenga Boy will be experiencing. He's going to have to come into the pit soon, and Lewis Craig might have to come into the pit soon as his wee moment there causes Jess to go wide, and that puts her into the realm of Daniel Peel-Wheelnut and Scottish Goat. Daniel Peel-Wheelnut as Waste picks up a penalty down in 8th, but it won't matter at the moment as Ryan Berry's 3 seconds behind. But yeah, Darky into that 1 second window now will pick up some DRS. That's exactly what he needs, exactly what Jess needs, is to break free of the DRS, because the Ferraris now maybe going to try work together to get past Jess here. Daniel Peel-Wheelnut not got the space to go round the outside there, does he? He does, and he's passed. And what a move that is from Daniel Peel-Wheelnut, the Manxman, still to win a race in Dive Bomb. He picked up the runners-up award last season, is up into P5, well done to him, and now it's his teammates' turn. Scottish Goat trying to get past Jess. Obviously a bit of rustiness for Jessica Ball, not doing any racing after being on holiday, and it was the first Ferrari earlier in the lap. Will it be the second Ferrari this lap? Jenga Boy in the pits, Lewis Craig in the pits, Jess Ball in the pits, Wace as well going to be coming in. No, he stays out. So it's Darky, your leader, from CJH, and it will be Daniel and then Scottish Goat. So the Ferraris don't split the strategies, they're going medium, and they'll probably go both soft. Lewis doesn't have a teammate to go split strategies with, and Baza's so far back in comparison to Jess that they can't really make that strategy work to their effect. And Jenga Boy now got out behind Gamer Games, comes ahead now. I know the Ferraris have swapped places. I'm not sure if that was synchronised swimming or if that was Daniel ran wide on the curb, but Scottish Goat is now ahead, and this could matter coming into the pit stop phase. That Scottish Goat now gets first call in comparison to Daniel, and his Scottish Goat's gone wide now. These two are just desperate not to pit first. They want their teammate to box. Maybe scared of some safety cars, but Daniel now will have the DRS on his teammate. We're on board with the Ferrari as he does the same move he did to Jess on the previous lap, and he's back up into 3rd place for the time being. It's obviously a net P5. And it's probably too early to stop for the medium runners. And Wace has done a fantastic job. He's right on the back of these guys after starting in 13th place. Obviously not quite got the pace Lewis has in the first stint, but he was on the mediums. So he might have that pace in the second stint. Don't count Wace out. I know he's got a penalty of a decent result here as Daniel Peel-Wheelnut comes in, and he'll be the driver we watch for his pit stop. In Dive Bomb tonight, we always watch at least one pit stop, and we'll see how the Ferrari crew can do. Off come those soft medium compound. On go the hards for Ferrari, and out he comes. And we've questioned the Ferrari strategies in the past, and we might be questioning it here tonight as Lewis moves ahead of Gamer James, who started on those hard tyres. So he's going to come in for the softs later on. We've questioned the Ferrari strategy before, and we might be questioning it again come the end of the night, but it might be a master call. We'll see what his teammate does in a few moments. CJ now pushing Darkies, closing that gap now, 6/10 of a second. Lewis, 4.7 behind Jenga Boy for the lead of the race now. Can Lewis win this Grand Prix while starting P13 after having a qualifying ban? Jenga Boy, who's led every lap of this race, bar the laps he's pitted for. It would be a crazy start if Jenga Boy can't peel this out, because going off his pace, you'd imagine Jenga Boy leading in clean air, not having much traffic now that he's up into Jordan now, which he's going to get past. That might have been why Lewis was so closing in. As Waste gets past Scottish Goat struggling on those mediums now maybe. He might have to come into the pits, especially now his teammate has. Darky into the pits now. Waste doesn't box, Scottish Goat does. Jenga Boy's extended his lead to Lewis Craig by around about a second with that fastest lap of the race. Is Lewis Craig going to respond? Not quite. It wasn't too far off the lap time actually, it was about 3/10 down. So Lewis got some good pace, obviously overtook Gamer James on that lap. He's got a long way to go, Lewis, and it's going to be a tough ask for him to go win this race, but hopefully he can manage some good time. As Jess now and Darky battling on the exit of the pit lane, and Darky seems to have gotten Jess as he obviously went onto the soft compound, so he'll have the quicker tyres, and with that couple of time penalties he's got, he's going to have to get a shift on, because Jess will get to overtake him anyway, and that car, that Mercedes car, is all over the place on the exit of the corner there of the first sector, and Jess might be able to mount a challenge here. The top 5 all separated by at least 3 seconds, so it's calmed down out in front now. We need the pit stops. And Darky's dropped behind Lewis after being ahead of Lewis. That undercut is extremely powerful around here, as you can clearly notice. And if Jenga Boy left it any later, he might have been in trouble from Lewis there. And with that gap hovering at 5 seconds, you'd imagine, barring any mistakes, Jenga Boy is going to be okay from Lewis Craig. As CJ now into the pit lane. Waste into the pits as well. You'd imagine it'd be softs for both the Racing Bulls and the Haas team. Yes, softs for the Racing Bulls. Is it the softs for the Haas? Yes, it is. So, Jenga Boy leads. 9 laps completed. 4 to go. Lewis Craig, 5.1 behind. In second. Fantastic result for him considering he started 13th. Darky, 3rd for the time being, but he's got 6 seconds worth of penalties. Jess in 3rd, not got the pace in his second stint, or really the end of that first stint to mount a challenge, but is on course for a podium. CGH has picked up a penalty on his exit of the pit lane. He's in 5th. Daniel P. Wheelnut in 6th is in line for at least a 5th place if he can keep on that gap. As you can tell, I'm very tired from working so hard and putting together this league, as you can hear me on. Scottish Goat dropped down a few places once everything shuffled out and made itself kind of into normality post pit lane. Waste in 3rd has a penalty as well, so lots of penalties around the grid, around the field. Obviously we're watching Jordan right now, he's 5 times back on Acorn for 9th. It's 10th and 11th for Jake, and well, these risk races, other than really Lewis, they've not really provided the results that drivers need. They're finding it more difficult than they would expect. Obviously, Lewis had the good fortune of the safety car around Austin. But drivers are finding it more difficult than maybe they would have thought. And it's not quite as easy to overtake these drivers that aren't in the top 5 all the time. And here we go now. Jordan, a driver usually in the top 5, but having his risk race up into 9th. And if he can get 8th, he's on course for the best risk race outside of Lewis Craig, who obviously picked up the podium at Kota. And Lewis is starting to fall away from Jenga Boy. So it looks like Jenga Boy's on for his second ever DBF1 win. Lewis will be disappointed with that qualifying ban. You'd imagine Lewis would have won this race without it if everything went as it did. Wace is right in the back of Daniel. Daniel obviously no penalty, might not fight this too hard. But Daniel is a feisty driver and doesn't like giving up places on the track unless he needs to. Or has to leave the space. Very clean, even though he's feisty. But how long can that clean and feistiness survive against the defending champion? Not much longer. Wace up into P6. Fantastic driving from the pair of them. But it might have been a mistake that he's made too early, because back comes Daniel up into 6th place. And a move that the defending champion just made a wee bit too soon. And he's going to have to settle for P7 at the moment. As CJH gets past Jess not putting up too much of a fight, considering it's penalties for CJ, as Wace gets back ahead of Daniel now. It's a good move for him. Darky dropped a 6/10 that lap to Lewis, so it looks secure for Lewis in P2, barring any mistakes. Jess is hanging on to CJ, that 5/10 gap. Maybe the DRS dragging her along. She needs to remain within 3 seconds to pick up P4 and 12 championship points that go on top of her 4 she's already received tonight. So 16 points around Saudi Arabia. She'll be very happy with that. That is barring she can make it to the end. So with 2 and a bit laps to go, Jenga Boy's going to come round for the 12th tour around Jeddah, and that'll signal 2 laps remaining. Then we'll get to our wee break in the interval of the session before we go for 35% Mexico and 1 shot qualifying. We're still to pick a driver for who that will be, as Acorn is the closest driver on track to making a move. 6/10 the gap on Tony, and he's not going to close quite enough to make that move. I think Baz is also close to making a move on Ryan, but not quite within striking distance just yet. But we'll see in the next few corners if he can. CJ's closing the gap to Darky. Oh, and Darky's out! There'll be no safety car because it's so late in the race. We're on board with Deck. Will we see a stricken Mercedes? Yes, we did there slightly. And everyone's going to move up a place. And he had the time penalties, really, that was going to cost him. But he's just binned it. It looks like he's clipped the curve and it's just dragged him into the wall with absolutely no defence possible. And he's out of the session. Safety car is too late to come out. And well, someone else has picked up a time penalty there, as Acorn's right on the back of Jordan. And obviously Acorn didn't have the best risk race. I think he only scored 2 points after finishing 14th, and that was double points. And there he goes, he's going to try ruin Jordan's risk race. Jordan thought he got a free gift into 8th with that DNF from Darky, but nope. It was pure on merit and on pace. He got past Jordan, and Jordan just had nothing to defend with. But here he comes now as Wace and Jessica Ball are battling away with Daniel as well. Oh no, she's disconnected from the session. A disaster for her. She's out of the session. And obviously she's been here for over 50% of this Grand Prix, which means she will score championship points. But unfortunately, with the AI level it is, she probably won't finish in the top 14, maybe 15th. Oh, so disappointing for Jess. She was having such a good race. up the field, and the Scottish Goat picks up a penalty now. It is the final lap of the race, so she might be okay to score some still half decent points as Chris picks up a penalty. And Gamer James, the only one in the bottom six, bottom five to not have a time penalty. So good on James, and it's a disaster for Jess. Unfortunately, on the final lap of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, the man that's dominated from start to finish, he won last time out, last week around Qatar. He's going to make it 2 in a row. He's going to win here in Jeddah for only the second time in history in Dive Bomb F1. Someone will win a race in Jeddah. Jenga Boy takes the hat trick. He is the hat-trick hero. It's the pole position. It's the fastest lap and the Grand Prix win. Lewis, after having a qualifying ban, comes home second, with CJH getting a podium on his return to Dive Bomb. Wace is going to only manage fifth as Daniel P. Wheelnut sneaks the podium. The time penalties for CJ drop him to fourth place. Jordan picks up sixth, which I think is the best he could have hoped for in his risk race. Jessica Ball comes in home in seventh with disconnecting. She'll probably take that. Acorn in eighth. Scottish Goat ninth. Jake rounds out the top 10, which is a bonus points finish for him. Tony comes home in 11th with Chris 12th. Ryan Berry 13th, and it was the two McLarens 13th and 14th. So you'll see your podium celebrations in just a moment. And there you have it. The Malaysian driver wins again, 2 in a row for him, 2 Dive Bomb F1 race victories, and he's looking like a true menace to the championship now. He already had a 21-point swing in his favour before qualifying. He makes that 27 and then makes it 52 points as championship lead coming in to the next few rounds of the season. Fantastic job from Sauber and Jenga Boy. Well done for Ferrari for picking up a podium at the end there as well. And congrats to Lewis. The qualifying ban down in 13th to still come home in second is some exceptional pace. So I will have a quick break, give my voice a rest, and have a quick drink, and then I'll be back for one shot qualifying in just a wee mo. So we're here in Mexico for the 35% Grand Prix one-shot qualifying. Welcome back for the second race of week 3. We've had the one-shot we had the 25% race, sorry, and the short qualifying that led to Jordan and Jake picking up double points for their races. So we're about to get underway for qualifying. Pressure on. Oh, one mistake and it's all over in this session. Jenga Boy picked up the hat trick in Saudi Arabia. He picked up pole position, the race victory, and the bonus fastest lap point. So that is 32 points coming the way of Jenga Boy. Lewis Craig started 13th after a qualifying ban. He finished second. Possibly would have won the race if he got to do qualifying. Something we'll never know. So hopefully the drivers have all got their setups on. Hopefully Jess can get back in and race the full race this time around, as she only managed 7th due to a disconnection. Unfortunate for her. But with 10 seconds until qualifying, ladies and gentlemen, it's about to get underway, and we're going to put the pressure on the man that did win last time out, last 2 times out. Sorry, in Dive Bomb, Jenga Boy. And we're already on him straight away as he comes round the final corner through the beautiful grandstand on the left hand side there. Opens the DRS in about 50 metres. There we go. Down the straight. Such a long start finish that you're almost better starting in P3 than starting on pole. But the pole positions on the XL list is what everyone wants. They want to be higher up that list, and Jenga Boy will already be close to a top 10 appearance if he can pick up his third in 6 races here. A 50% pole position ratio would be fantastic for him through 3 races, but he's got his good friend Darky for company on the front row of the grid at the moment. Darky, if he can pick up pole, will be 10 pole positions, and that'll be the most in Dive Bomb history. But he's dropped down the order fairly quickly, so it looks like that was commentator's curse, and it looks like it could be Jenga Boy as we come through the S's now, clipping the curb perfectly is the sound, but he just has so much pace and traction. It's just beautiful watching him drive the car. It just follows him the way he wants it to go, and he's just gliding through into the grandstand section. Now he goes, does this Malaysian driver that looks like Lewis Craig might be mounting a late challenge late on in the lap, but it looks like Jenga Boy as he goes through the right-hander now. A bit of a tongue slap, but it might just be enough for him for a second pole in a row. Yes, it is, and only just by 0.5 of a second to Lewis Craig, who's also on the front row, and I believe it was CJH that takes the P3 that we mentioned was such a valuable spot on the grid. Yes, it was. Jess came home in 4th after an impressive lap. Scottish go again with his teammate on the 3rd row. They're so impressive over 1 lap by the Ferraris, with Wace only managing 7th. No qualifying points again for the defending champion. Baza in 8th, better qualifying for himself. Darky in 9th, with Jake running at the top 10. Acorn and Ryan Beddy make it, and I'll Aston Martin 6th row. Gamer James in 13th, didn't set a lap. Jordan and Tony, the defending Constructors champions, both disqualified. So Jordan, who wants to mount a challenge of winning this Drivers' Championship. He might not believe he's got the pace himself to win the championship, but he does, going off last season's pace, down the order. And we're hearing on the team radio at Williams that it was 3rd place for Jordan, barring that invalidation. So unlucky for Jordan there. His true pace not been shown. Obviously, picked up 19 points in his double or nothing race there earlier on in this night. P6 got helped out with some time penalties, so 19 points for him. Good start. Needs to improve on that down the order. Not going to help him out with that though. Obviously top 14 in Dive Bomb score points. It goes 25, 18, 15, 12, 10, and then 9. Every position after 10 goes down to 1 all the way to 14. You get 1 lap for the fastest lap, and then the top 6 in quali score points, and it's the opposite way around. So if you finish 1st, you get 6 points, and if you finish 6th, you get 1 point, and then you can work out the rest from there. And if you can't, go to school instead of watching this stream. So the drivers just having their last of their water and halftime oranges before we get going. 25 laps around this wonderful circuit here in Mexico. We've no Sergio Perez, no Mexican drivers ever in Dive Bomb. Pretty much a shame, really. We've had a few nationalities. I think we've had 18 I had written down last week, or is it 19? I think Casper made it 19. It was the first Finnish driver to drive in the league, and that made it 19 nationalities over well, 5 seasons, 77 races. It is race 78 and 79 tonight, so next week we'll cross that border of 80 Grand Prix in Dive Bomb F1. That would be fantastic for the league. But it's lights on for the 77th Grand Prix. It's Jenga Boy versus Lewis Craig, as we've got no sound from Cody's. We'll see who has the better start. It looks like Jess is already disconnected from the session. Lewis going into the slipstream as she moves up into P3. Does Jess, who's back into 4th. Now the run up to turn 1, all important. CJ now going to try and mount a challenge on Lewis for P2. It looks like he will. Does CJ not quite got the grip though on the inside to survive and make the position? Scottish Goat going to try and make the place up, not quite able to do so. Lewis Craig not having the luck he did on his lap 1 start in Saudi, but he's trying to be close to Jenga Boy. Now this is it. True natural ability. Lewis Craig's got no excuse now. He's not in 13th. And no, there you go. Down the inside of Jenga Boy he goes. He sneaks up the inside. I just said my brother had no excuse to not mount a challenge to Jenga Boy. He had to show his pace that he has and show his championship ability. And he sneaks down the inside of the championship leader. That is experience for you there. Lewis Craig leads. Jenga Boy second. CJ third. He's had a bit of a scruffy middle sector, but he's still keeping the guys honest. Scottish Coat now on the back of Jessica Ball, not able to make the move. Darky at 3 places. Sheck Waste goes wide there through this grandstand section, but he's up a place as well. Daniel's dropped a few. Jake up a few places. I think Baz has dropped a couple. Acorn up 1. Jordan up a few places as well. Lewis Craig now 7/10 the gap between him and Jenga Boy. Jenga Boy on board with him now. DRS enabled. Will he have DRS? No, as he's going to sail obviously up the inside here. Nope, bides his time. CJH not able to make the move. Darky is though on Scottish Goat, up into 5th now. Can Darky mount a challenge on these guys ahead? Jordan up into 11th. He's battling away with Acorn. Old rivals there from previous seasons for race wins. Jess now trying to mount a challenge for that podium. No safety car in this Grand Prix, and you'd imagine everyone would be on those medium tyres. So, Scottish Goat, Daniel Puby on that. The only drivers inside the top 9 to be on the hards. Everyone from 10th down on the hards. Everyone else on the mediums. Lewis Craig not sailing away with the lead from Jenga Boy just yet, but it's all going to be about managing the tyres, managing the pace, and who boxes first for that undercut with no safety car. This is going to be done on track in the race here. Hopefully penalties won't be involved, but you'd imagine there'll be a few with the S's in the later laps. This phase of the Grand Prix is all about discipline, and Lewis is disciplining Jenga Boy here because Jenga Boy is out of the DRS now. It's the fastest lap from Lewis Craig. Darky manages to beat that fastest lap. Lewis Craig and Alpine had some confidence coming into this race. He's closing the gap as Jenga Boy all the way down and up into P1 he goes. And Lewis Craig now going to have to settle in and try to get back past. And that closing speed, you'd imagine, we'll get the telemetry up because this is going to be an important track for it. Lewis doesn't have as much battery as Jenga Boy. He's used just a little bit more. But obviously defending there, the DRS, obviously with 1 second behind, you'd think you'd be able to hang on, but no, the straight is so long, Lewis couldn't hang on, but he's 3/10 back, so if you're 3/10 back, Lewis will probably be about a second ahead come the end of the straight on the next lap, but he needs to keep an eye on his wing mirrors because he doesn't want CJ to do what he did to Jenga Boy and sneak past. Now it's Lewis's turn to hang on through the turbulent air of the car ahead as Darky, only driver in the top 5 to pick up a penalty, looking to get past Jess here with that time penalty causing him problems. Lack of discipline from Darky costing him the opportunity here of good finishes, and Lewis Craig is a lot closer to Jenga Boy than Jenga Boy was to Lewis, and you'd imagine they've both got about similar ERS deployment, and with that DRS you'd imagine Lewis would be able to get ahead, barring Jenga Boy doesn't have any wings on that car, which it looks like he doesn't. He's used a lot more ERS to defend, has Jenga Boy, and Lewis not able to get past. interesting in that early phase of the race that Lewis isn't able to sail past as easy on the straight, maybe running a bit more downforce, or maybe he was waiting to do the same move he did on lap 1. He moves to the right, then back to the left. What a move that will be from Lewis. Clips the curb. Beautifully done from the Scotsman. Can Jenga Boy battle back ahead? Looks like he might be able to do so. They're side by side. Jenga Boy leaves the room, which he has to do because Lewis Craig was there. It was Lewis's corner. Jenga Boy leaves the room and Lewis hangs on to the lead. Fantastic racing from Jenga Boy and Lewis Craig on the opening laps here. Already on lap 4, a sixth of the way through this race as Wace has passed Darky and Darky's out of the session. 2 retirements from Darky, not the night he would have wanted. And then one of the championship favourites struggling early on in the season, and disappointing for him. And Lewis Craig, now you'd imagine, would get passed by Jenga Boy. Jenga Boy 70% ERS, Lewis 60. Will Lewis defend it? He might do, because CJH is all over the back here of Jenga Boy, not closing the gap. I think Jenga Boys are learning a lot less wings compared to everyone else. The Scottish Gold looks like the driver that might make a move here. Lewis hangs on for now. Maybe Jenga Boy taking a leaf. Lewis is booking hanging on for the second hit of DRS, and we'll see. Here he gets it. 44 ERS now in the battery pack, and no, not able to make the move on Lewis. So the first time in the race, Lewis able to hang on that first sector after being in first. A bit of a tank slapper for the Alpine. And Lewis leads from Jenga Boy a fifth of the way through this Grand Prix. And Scottish Goat and Jess and CJ keeping these top two honest. Obviously, Jenga Boy had the pace in Saudi. He peeled away from the likes of Casper last week in the second race as CJ picks up a penalty in the top 5. Disappointing for him. But Jenga Boy had that pace that looked scary and looked like he was going to run away with the lead. He's not finding it as easy as he would have liked with Lewis being here now and CJ. Jess here as well. Scottish Goat doing the best to keep them guys honest. And well, it's not as easy as you would have liked. And Jenga Boy 8 attempts back now. Lewis Craig trying to break the slipstream. Jenga Boy has a bit more battery, but he's got a lot of road to close the gap, and he's using all that battery. So does Lewis. He's closing the gap, closing the gap, closing the gap, not close enough to make the move. Will he be able to on the second hit of DRS, that second dose? And he's going to have a lot more battery compared to Lewis, but Lewis is on the battery and the power a lot earlier, which might allow him to hang on to the place, and Lewis is managing this Grand Prix fantastically at the moment. He gets Jenga Boy close in the first sector. He peels away in the second sector and the third sector, and it's just not close enough. I think Daniel's had an accident, has he? Yeah, he's had a bit of or is it Sheik Wace? Wace has had an accident, sorry. He's off the track. Don't retire on the track, Wace. If you're going to retire in the pits. And then the defending champion not having the greatest of weeks and not having, well, he was having a good defence until recently, but it's not going well for him at the week now. And the man that tells him he's always in the grass, Ryan, is trying to get past him as he was on the grass, and then with damage on that front wing, you'd imagine Ryan should get past him. Around the outside goes Ryan. Wace doesn't really leave much room, and then they're battling away as Ryan gets past, and there might be some words later on. Wace didn't leave much room, but then there was overtake off circuit, and we'll find out later on. Lewis now. Jenga Boy a lot closer, a lot more battery, and it looks like he's going to get past this time. But Lewis just needs to know, don't let CJ pass, and I'll be alright. Daniel ahead of Jake, who's up in 7th place. So well done to Jake. He's had a good first stint here at Mexico, and for someone that doesn't like Mexico or Qatar last week, he's fairly doing quite well. Maybe a bit of Dom Smith syndrome in Gran Turismo, where the second race of the night just seems to be him. And for the first time this race, Jenga Boy survives Lewis Craig through the exit of the first sector. Can Lewis Craig close that gap and get ahead of him now? On lap 7, it'll be the 7th time we cross the start-finish straight. In about 35 seconds, Lewis doing everything he can through the S's to keep that gap as tight as humanly possible. He'll open the DRS. He's using the DRS. He's saving his battery now. He's about 10% behind Jenga Boy. So Jenga Boy just managing the ERS just a tad better, just 10% better in the Cyber, but Lewis seems to be managing the race a tad better in terms of being ahead. Obviously not ahead for the time being, but you'd imagine, look at the speed Lewis Craig's got there, should sail past here, using that DRS. Jenga Boy not using the battery here, knows Lewis is going to overtake him, and will want that second bite of the cherry. So is this the evolution of this Grand Prix where they just accept that the driver in second is going to overtake into turn one and you go for him here? Because Lewis Craig, only 50% battery, whereas Jenga Boy has almost 100 now. It's at 80. Not using it now. Jenga Boy maybe conceding this phase of the race now in the first stint. And Lewis, he knows what Lewis has got to offer, knows where Lewis is quick now, and maybe going to use that and the pit wall at Sauber. Only one driver for Sauber tonight, as something they can use to try and manage the gap and manage this race and learn Lewis's tricks and tips and use it. And obviously 2.5 seconds is sort of the... Oh, Boy picks up a time penalty, 3 seconds. Oh, a disaster. I was just about to say you could manage that undercut gap as he gets his battery all the way up to 100% now, but 3 seconds, he's going to have to close that gap now and overtake. And not what you would have wanted for the undercut. Obviously, I was going to say the undercut's 2.5 seconds as CJ, the first driver of the top 10 to come into the pits for an actual pit stop that matters in his strategy for the race. So we'll keep an eye on CJ on the undercut. He might force other drivers into pitting as well. But yeah, disaster for Jenga Boy at the moment. Doesn't get ahead of Lewis. Lewis now managing the race a bit better, a bit more disciplined. Obviously with that time penalty not being picked up for him. But Scottish Goat is pretty close to Jess. We'll see if it's enough. Not quite. Is anyone else close on track? I think Acorn's close to Jake for making Jake's great P8 into P7. Yep, Jake not really fighting that too hard. I think Jake knows his level of the Grand Prix and is just trying to hang on to the most points he possibly can, and battling away is going to cost him time. So it's Lewis Craig that leads. 8 tenths now to Jenga Boy plus the 3-second time penalty. I think Lewis had a bit of a moment because he's dropped 5 tenths of a second. Maybe Lewis Craig going for the pit stop here, or maybe trying to back Jenga Boy up into Jess. 2 seconds the gap now. And then no, Jenga Boy's in. So he's seen CJ box behind for the undercut. Doesn't want that to happen to him. Doesn't want to be undercut by CJ. And well, this will be a true testament to his pace, CJ. If CJ comes out ahead of Jenga Boy, you'd imagine he'd come out ahead of Lewis Craig as well. And you'd imagine his teammate Chris Johnson going to give him a slipstream and a tow and not battle him at all. Jenga Boy is coming out the pits. We're on board with CJH in relevance of where he is compared to Jenga Boy, and it's just behind him and no more. Very, very close. Lewis Craig is going to have to come into the pits this lap if he wants to hold on to his lead, and that's if he can even hang on to his lead with the undercut Jenga Boy. We'll see if Jenga Boy can hang on or if he closes that gap. It seems like he's having a pretty good outlap here, Jenga Boy. He's picked up 3 tenths on Baza. Whether or not he's picking up 3 tenths on Lewis is a different question. He's 21.1 behind the leader. We'll keep an eye on that gap. Not quite sure what he needs to do to get ahead, or if that will matter. 21 seconds now, the gap, just under 21 seconds as Lewis Craig comes into the pits. He's the driver we're going to watch for the pit stop here. Mediums, it's going to be a stop for hards. 14 laps till the end for Lewis Craig. Jenga Boy, that gap is closing and closing. Hard tyres on for Lewis Craig. Out go the Alpine. They do the best job they possibly can do, Alpine. It's a very quick stop, but is it enough? As Jenga Boy comes round that final corner, going to sail past Lewis Craig. Yeah, Lewis is going to be behind CJ as well. So 1 lap extra for Lewis has dropped him behind those two, but he has the advantage of he doesn't have a time penalty. And for some reason that we're not going to speak about, CJ seems to have a bit of contact with Jenga Boy, or Jenga Boy seems to have a bit of contact with CJ every time they meet, and with Baz up ahead, he's also going to try and support his teammate Jess. If Baza can hold them up, that might help Lewis and Jess as well. The contact that these two guys seem to have had in every race they've been close to might come into relevance as well. The stewards are keeping an eye on the contact between them over the few races they've had. Obviously, if it becomes a regular occurrence, the stewards might need to step in. But it's not been to that point yet as CJ picks up a second 3-second time penalty, so Lewis will definitely get ahead of him as Baza now going to get passed by Jenga Boy. CJ down the inside of Baza extremely late and forces Baza off track and gets ahead, and Baza goes back up the inside of Jenga Boy there. Sorry, CJH trying to make the move. Baza picks up a time penalty, so I don't think Baza was too happy with the move from CJ. Baza was entitled to some room, I think, there, and I think he might pay the price for that as Jordan's now in the pits. First, the two Williams to stop. 3 times the gap, Lewis at CJ. 7 times the gap between Jenga Boy, so Lewis is over a second behind Jenga Boy. That 3-second gap can become quite big without any TRS, so Lewis kind of needs to get a move on and get ahead here. Tony doing his bit though to try and hold these guys up. He doesn't have to. Tony now peels to the right to try and move out the way. He'll get ahead of Jenga Boy. CJ, will he get ahead of Tony? No. So, CJ and Lewis need to get past Tony quickly. They need to get ahead to hang on to Jenga Boy. Without the DRS here, it's very, very difficult to keep up with the car ahead. And Jenga Boy needs to get break that second that Tony's in with at DRS, and it looks like he might be doing so here as Jess and Baz are doing some synchronized swimming with the Red Bulls as per usual. And CJ now over 1.5 seconds behind Jenga Boy. Lewis Craig not boxing and being stuck behind CJ, and Tony is costing him an opportunity here at a win. Lewis Craig is already 2 seconds behind now. He needs to get past Scottish Goat, first of the two Ferraris in the pits. Tony in the pits now. Lewis Craig, a lot more battery compared to CJ, and he's going to get ahead of CJH here now. Is the Scotsman. Scots versus England. CJ going to try battle it, even with the time penalty. Well, maybe not try battle it. He's not really using the battery. I think CJ's yielded there. Doing the right thing, CJ. Knows he's not going to catch Jenga Boy, and is doing the right thing by letting Lewis go. Well, not really letting Lewis go. He did battle him, but not challenging too ridiculously. And Jenga Boy, 2.1 now to Lewis Craig. Lewis was leading when the pit stops happened, but the undercut worked a treat. And then being held up in traffic worked a treat for Jenga Boy. 2 seconds that gap. Can Lewis close it? He only needs to be within 3 seconds to pick up the win here without a time penalty if he picks one up. So Lewis now is within 2 seconds. So he's closing that gap. Acorn ahead of Jenga Boy. So some traffic and some drivers out of sync in the Grand Prix may be the reason why Jenga Boy's struggling. And Jenga Boy is up now into P2. And it's Lewis's turn next to try and get past Acorn if he doesn't pit. And Lewis Craig, 1.6 now that gap as CJ picks up another time penalty, so it's struggling for him. As CJ Acorn, into the pits. So we'll see what Lewis Craig, who sets the fastest lap, a 1:18.3, showing his pace now, 1.6 as he stretches the legs of the Alpine driver. Baz up into 6th place, but I believe he's still to stop. If he has stopped, then it's a great race for the Red Bulls here. 5th and 6th. We'll get the stops up quickly just to make sure I've done the wrong one. No, Baz has not stopped. Chris hasn't stopped. And that's the only two drivers we're waiting to stop as Jordan overtakes Ryan for 9th place. Lewis now 1.5, the gap sort of stabilising around 1.5, 1.6. As Lewis will take that, of course. Both drivers around the 33% mark on ERS as well. CJ 2 seconds behind, obviously with 9 seconds of penalties. Jess not too far behind the battle for the podium. If she can close the gap, she'll be on the podium actually. She's not too far behind the battle for 2nd or 1st. Could be on for a 2nd place here, Jess, if she can get close enough to Jenga Boy. As Jenga Boy takes the lead, as Daniel finally comes into the pits. Lewis Craig now is closing that gap ever so slightly. 1.2. Lewis Craig on 10% errors, Jenga Boy on 16. So Jenga Boy knows the pressure that's at stake here and is trying to break that gap to Lewis, but he just doesn't have the pace for it to be 3 seconds. He's got the pace for it to be about 1.2, 1.5, but he needs to double the gap here. And Lewis Craig, with 10 laps to go, plenty of racing to go here. Lewis Craig has to stay disciplined, has to stay focused, and make sure he drives his car home. And make sure there's no contact with anyone behind. He's pulling away from CJH, so it looks like this is turning from a 3-4 horse race into a 2-horse race. And Lewis, the lone Alpine tonight, and will be the lone Alpine for the foreseeable future. At the time being, they don't have a second driver anymore. They will be looking to win the market to pick up a second driver, so there may be some offers from Alpine to pick up a second choice driver or pick someone from outside the league, or maybe a rookie that's new to the league. So yeah, there should be some driver shake-ups. Obviously, Kai, with us the whole of last season and this season, picked up a new work job. So congratulations to Kai. He dropped to reserve, and Kaya, who obviously raced last week, picked up the full-time Mercedes seat. He was one of our reserves on the waiting list, and Kaya now joins. Obviously not able to make tonight, but Kaya picks up that full-time Mercedes AMG seat. So congratulations to Kaya. We hope to see him next week, and well done to Kai for picking up the job that he was wanting desperately. And we hope to see him back racing soon. As I'm blabbering on, Daniel gets ahead of Jordan on fresh rubber. He would have imagined that would have been an easy move for Daniel. Maybe not on equal tyres or equal performance, but with the tyre deficit that Daniel has over Jordan, easy move. And Jordan in 8th, 6 and 8 for Jordan. You'll be happy with that. Not too happy comparison to his race wins the last season, but Jordan does have that race win in him, and I think the second half of the calendar sort of suits him more, as the defending champion retires in the pit lane. Wace's championship is seeming to halt at the moment. He needs to focus and regroup, and I think he's only making Monaco next week as well. He's not going to make the second week. Wace was fantastic picking up the win of the championship last season and picking up the win in the opening round. But I like Wace, great driver, great to battle. He's always been clean with me in my experience with him. We had a great battle in season 35 on the opening night of TGP in Bahrain. If you want to go watch that after tonight's actions commenced, it was a great battle. Obviously, Wace did come out on top in that one. But he just feeling that pressure of why there's been 5 drivers champions in 5 seasons. It's so hard to defend. It's so competitive. And for someone, he knows that himself. He only picked up 1 win. Had the opportunity for more, but only 1 win. And was able to win the championship. He knows how competitive it is up the front. And we didn't have Lewis for the full season. We didn't have Jordan or Jenga or Jess, who's in 4th. It is a lot more competitive this season, but that doesn't take away from his championship win. It was a fantastic championship win, and he deserved it in every right. And we hope that maybe he'll be able to mount a championship fight later on in the season, make a claim and show his class and why he's the defending champion. But just has to remember no one's ever defended it, and not to take it too much to heart if he can't defend that championship. But talking about defending, Jenga's going to have to do this defending of his own, because Lewis Craig is going to try to take the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix. I'm trying to rack my brain if Lewis has ever won a Mexican Grand Prix in any racing league, and I don't think he has. I don't think Mexico suits his style, barring tonight's performance. He doesn't seem to like Mexico too much, but he seems to have found a bit of form earlier on in the day, and he's translated that into the race here. And it wasn't too much expectation during the week in Mexico for Alpine, but as close as we got during the practice sessions, and obviously in that qualifying when he got P2, he's showing that Mexico's sort of coming to him now. 3 tenths the gap. He said he wasn't able to challenge Jenga Boy because of how quick he thinks Jenga Boy is, and the other Cyber of Hugo. But he seems to be putting on a lot of pressure. And at Saudi, he had the pace where, if you imagine, if he started on the front row or even 2 or 3 places higher, he would have won that race. He's showing his class here, and he's on course for a win if he can keep it between the white lines and then not fall too far back. And you'd expect the man that won the Dutch Grand Prix last season by 10 seconds should win this Grand Prix as well. Round the final corner they go. Opens the DRS. Jenga Boy only 30% battery, using it to defend from Lewis, but Lewis has got so much more in the battery, and he won't make the move into turn 1. He'll hang on, brake late, use as much of the apex as he possibly can on all the corners. It just looks a lot more smoother in that Alpine cockpit than it does in the Sauber. And it's not many times we've said that this season, that a car's look smoother compared to the Saubers. The Sauber have built Jenga Boy a fantastic car this season, and Hugo both got a race win. The only car on the grid to have both their drivers win a Grand Prix this season. It's been the car to beat as a Sauber, but Lewis Craig mounting a challenge tonight and showing he has what it takes in that beautiful Alpine to try and win multiple races. It's going to be hard to win the championship with only making every second week, but he'll damn sure try his best to win the title and be as close as he possibly can. And he's putting on a true natural ability performance. Maybe a bit of a miss with the strategy, and he boxed the lap too late, but he's fought back and done well, and has 25% more battery. As you can see, as we watch the back behind of the Kicksauber on the rear wing mirror, well, not the rear wing mirror, but the rear wing view, as that Alpine's closing the gap. Car number 37 doing everything he can to get past him. Lewis Clegg just swimming through those corners, and the Kicksauber trying to fight his way through the corners, but the exit there was all Kicksauber. Lewis wasn't able to get the traction, the turbulent air maybe forcing him to try and recorrect the angle of the car, and Jenga Boy doing good to defend. It's just he's got that time penalty. That mistake back on lap 14 has cost him dearly, and Lewis is, as you see in the background there, keeping him honest. It's 4 or 5 tenths gap, and then Lewis just doing what he needs to do, maybe not wanting to overtake. Going off his battery usage, I'd say that's wrong. I say he does want to overtake, he wants to defend that tyre life, but just not got the speed in him. It looks like Daniel's going to get ahead of CJ. I think he's picked up 12 seconds worth of penalties now. So Jake and Acorn, they're on for a good finish here, a 5th, a 6th and a 7th, if they can keep on CJ. Lewis Craig now, a lot closer. We've watched these guys for the whole lap in this rear view mirror, and it looks like Jenga Boy's going defensive. Lewis Craig is up there. He's going to go round the outside of the Sauber that turns to the inside and finally has the lead on the road. Can he hang on to the lead? He's going to the right hand side, trying to break the toe that the Sauber has. He can't make another defensive move, but he doesn't have to because he holds on, and Lewis now leads from Jenga Boy. Jess in 3rd place on the podium as dispatched of CGH. I missed that one, sorry Jess. But Jordan sets the fastest lap and will pick up a bonus point, and I believe that puts Jordan in 1st place for the most fastest laps in dive bomb history. So congrats to Jordan if that's true. He's down in 11th, so he'll pick up a couple of places due to penalties, but he wants to try and get closer if he possibly can. But Lewis now stretching his legs, gap 6 tenths, 7 tenths. Can he peel away and dominate this race for the last 4 laps? And then I've had a quick scan through my notes, and I think it's correct. I don't think Lewis has ever won around Mexico, unless it was a wee while ago in TGP2. So Lewis on course for his first ever Mexican Grand Prix victory, and he's been fantastic tonight from start to finish. Not a bad word to say about him, but he might have a bad word to say about Jenga Boy. Oh, not quite. Jenga Boy doesn't go for the move there. He was closing and closing, but Lewis Craig on course for a driver of the night performance and a 1st and a 2nd place. Not too shabby considering he picked up 41 points in week 1. Obviously didn't do week 2. And he's going to close the gap to Jenga. Well, Jenga Boy will extend the gap, but Lewis Craig will close up in terms of position in the championship. And if Lewis Craig can finish second place in the championship, with only doing the odd weeks of the season, it'd be a pretty fantastic result. As it looks like Acorn and Jake are battling away for 7th and 8th. Aston v McLaren, the final kind of big points available here. And CJ, 12 seconds for penalties. These guys have dropped out of that now. And I think they would actually have been okay because CJ's 7 seconds there, the Scottish goal. So I think I got a bit excited and for where these guys would finish. I think they're just battling for 7th and 8th with Tony behind with a few penalties of his own. But Jake going to have to settle for 8th place. But Jake, it's not been a great start to the season in terms of points scored. He struggled in the 25% races, but he didn't like Qatar, he said, and finished 8th. He doesn't like Mexico, but on course for 8th. So I think he'd be happy with that. And as we start lap 23, Jenga Boy gets ahead of Lewis. Sorry I missed that, but probably not going to matter in the grand scheme of things. As the Ferraris swap places with a time penalty and the big gap, you'd imagine that would be why, or it might have just been natural ability because he has picked up. And oh, we've got our second disqualification of the season. So Darky got disqualified. Was it Canada? Where was it Darky got disqualified from? So Darky got a disqualification. What was it? Qatar. It was the last. Yeah. Darky got disqualified in Qatar. Didn't pick up any points. And Ryan Berry's now been disqualified from the session. And he wouldn't score any points anyway because he's dropped to 16th now. So no points for Ryan. And that puts Wace up into the points. And Wace, who completed 50% of the race, will pick up a championship point thanks to Ryan Berry's disqualification. So Lewis on course here to regain the lead of the race, I think, on the penultimate lap. Not quite close enough. And we're getting to the dying moments of this Mexican Grand Prix, though. And it looks like Lewis is going to take the race victory. And he'd probably want to be ahead on the road if he picks up a last lap penalty. But Lewis now, a lot more battery, sorry. Jenga Boy's down under 10%. But that promotes a few drivers down the field from 10th downwards up one place due to Ryan Berry getting disqualified. So we have never had a disqualification as Jordan gets past his teammate with penalties. We never had a disqualification in 74 Grand Prix in Dive Bomb, and we've had 2 in 2 weeks. Pretty incredible. 2 in 3 races, 2 in 2 weeks as Jenga Boy picks up another 3-second time penalty, so that all but confirms Lewis Craig winning the Mexican Grand Prix as Acorn and Jake are still battling away. Acorn's got back past or was defending. Jordan picks up a penalty, unfortunately. And Jess Ball now. This sort of turns into your 6 seconds of time penalties. 1.3 seconds behind. Lewis Craig's going to get ahead of Jenga Boy into the lead of the Grand Prix on the final lap, but Jenga Boy's going to fight it and had a bit of a tank slapper. 1.5 now the gap to Jess, and Jenga Boy just needs to make sure that he seals this here and holds on to second place. He doesn't want to drop to third. He wants to extend his championship lead to Wace as much as possible. Wace only 1 point scored in the Mexican Grand Prix after being 21 ahead before the race started, so the gap went to 20. He wants that to be 18, and it looks like he's going to hang on unless he picks up another penalty. Yeah, I think he's okay. Jess isn't going to close that. So in through the castle section, we're on board as the fireworks go off in Mexico. Lewis Craig round the final few corners. He got the celebrations early before he gets to the start-finish straight. Lewis Craig wins the Mexican Grand Prix with Jenga Boy coming home in second place. Jessica Ball will come home for her natural position of P3. She just loves that place. CJH is 4th on the road, but it's only going to be 5th on the classified sheets because when Daniel Piwuna comes round, it will be 4th for him. And it looks like Scottish Goat going to manage 6th place. A better result for the Ferraris here at Mexico. Acorn going to hang on from Jake for 7th. Jake hangs on to 8th. Jordan 9th. Baza in 10th place. And Joni in 11th. Chris Johnson, another disappointing Grand Prix. 2 12ths in a row. I think Chris struggling for the time being. But it's 12th for him, and we hope Chris can return to his form that he showed last season when he was in that championship battle. Well, he won't say he was in the championship battle himself, but he was mathematically within a shout within the last week or two. But Gamer James, the most improved driver of Season 5, going to come around the final corner and pick up 2 championship points for his McLaren Mercedes team. Well, Lewis is happy on the team radio at Alpine, and you would be driver of the night performance for Lewis Craig. And you just got to think, if he was doing every race, he surely would have had a chance and accidentally skipped the podium celebration. Sorry, Lewis. Absolutely would have had the chance of winning the championship. Lewis Craig wins. Jenga Boy in second. Jessica Ball runs out the final step in the podium. We've already gone through the grids. Waste picks up a point because Ryan Berry was only the second ever disqualification in DBF1 history. That has been races 78 and 79. The next time I see you, it will be race 80. I can't believe my little racing league that started back in F1 2019 has made it to 80 Grand Prix. It's going to be Austria, it's going to be Bahrain, and at the moment we don't have any drivers for the risk race. So there's going to be a wheel if drivers don't pick it of the drivers still to do. So it could be a mixed bag, and you might not be expecting a risk race next week, but you're going to get one. So I've been Jack Craig. It was another fantastic night of racing. Make sure you tune in next week because it's race 80, rounds 7 and 8, and we're going to be close to the midway point of season number 6. Fantastic to have you all here, and I'll see you next week, and I'll see you on PS4.